Welcome, everybody, to Process to Text. So this is the third year that we're doing this reading series, and this is the second reading of the fall. So tonight we actually have George Quasha and Charles Stein, who are here to read for us. What I'm going to do first is introduce George Quasha. And to truly introduce George Quasha would really take like a novella. I mean, he's extremely accomplished. So I'll tell you about a few things that George is. He's an artist, he's a poet, he's a musician. You also work in language, sculpture, drawing, video, sound, installation, and performance. I have seen George Quasha balance stones, and that's pretty remarkable. If you don't have his book, Axial Stones, you should totally get it. It has a foreword by Carter Radcliffe, and I'm not sure what year this happened, your Guggenheim. What year did your Guggenheim happen?
Yeah, what year was the book?
The Guggenheim.
2006.
2006. So George got a Guggenheim for his video work, and so he's done these really enormous projects. One's called Art Is, one's called Music Is, one's called Poetry Is, and so he makes these video portraits. You've worked with over 800 writers and artists at this point, musicians. I mean, it's colossal. And I asked him one time how big this was going to get, and you said, well, when I interview everyone, then it will be done. So it's just a colossal, wonderful project. There's parts of it online, right?
Yes, several volumes.
Online, yes. You have shown the video work in several countries, here in the United States, but your latest written work is really a project called The Preverbs. And I'm going to let you explain that. So welcome, George Quasha.
Hi. So, thank you, and that was totally exaggerated, but it's fine. My understanding is that this series is about the process by which we do what we do. So I'm going to try to talk a little about that as I go, not in the normal way that I would just give a reading, to bring out the process by which it happens, which is not actually something I can finally describe to you. I don't know if anybody ever could really say what it is, how it is they do what they do. But to make that sort of somewhat clearer, I'm going to do two kinds of opposed things, which will kind of locate what I do in the middle between them. I'm going to start by reading you from a book called I Knew Dreams, which is from 1999, because it's the opposite of what I do most of the time, but in essence it's not. I mean, that is to say, on the surface it is. The things that it is that preverbs, which I will read to you in a few minutes, what's different about it is that I Knew Dreams are dreams, first of all. It's a process which I engaged with a Japanese artist named Chie Hasegawa, now Chie Hasegawa Hammonds. And they were her dreams, which I found extremely remarkable. And because she lived on our property and she had never spoken of having any dreams, and then suddenly she broke out with dreams. And I said, that's incredible. You're a dreamer. And what I felt about it was that it had a poetics. So what I wanted to do was engage with her dream in my language in such a way that she would see her own poetics and I would see my poetics together. And the determinant of when a poem was actually complete or finally realized was when she said it was, not when I said it was. So what's important about this is, for me, it brought to the fore something that has always been true for me as a matter of poetics, which is that one is not in charge of the poem. The poem happens by a means that is mysterious to oneself. And there can be any number of devices by which you cause that to show itself. And that comprises the actual poetic system such that it is. But the essence of it is that it's not expressing something that I have to express. My poetry has never been about self-expression. It's about something that occurs in the mind, in language, between myself and the world, in such a way that I see something that I didn't previously see. I know something, it could be about myself, but it's not particularly about myself, and that's never the important part. It's more about the nature of what is. I've always been fond of a statement of Wallace Stevens, that the accuracy of accurate letters is an accuracy with respect to the structure of reality. Of course, what that means is up for grabs, but I had an intuition about what it meant, and every poetic move that I make seems to show me some other aspect of that. So, I Knew Dreams. I'll just start, I'll read a couple of them, just to give the feeling of that kind of narrative, and then I'll explain why that's further related to preverbs. The first one is a poem called The Fool, and it's the first dream that second dream she told me. The first one was just a knockout, but I didn't write it down. And then the second one, I said, we've got a project. After she told me this one, I said, because I wrote it down, and it became the poem exactly as it is here. It was very immediate. And I said, we've got a project. You dream, I write. The Fool. The fool in black misfit tights came up to me and said, everything is 1/2 comedy and 1/2 comedy, and handed me with his 2 hands his 2 heads. So I knew, I couldn't do anything better than just write down what she said. But, of course, then it became complex, and we used to sit for hours in composition. She would sit next to me when I would do the first thing, and I'd read it to her if I thought something was a great line, and she didn't think it was. She said, "Oh yeah, I like that, but it's not my dream." I had to take it out. So this is a discipline that I think it really pertains to the nature of poetics as I see it. It's not about what you think is pretty or beautiful or significant or revelatory. It's about what is actually true to the poem. In this case, the poem had to be true to the dream as well. This one's called Knot, K-N-O-T. I was a knot, or else I was inside a knot. Not sure. Here's the story. I was making a knot with myself. Out of the blue, someone asks, "What's it like to be inside a knot?" I say, I was the knot itself. Or the knot could have been in me, or, well, maybe after all, I may have slipped into the knot. When you become the knot, where were you? Is mind inside or out? Hang on, we're losing the thread. As sides go, there's no in or out here. Once a knot, there's only this side. So that poem could almost be about what I call preverbs. Preverbs are based on William Blake's notion of proverb in the Proverbs of Hell, in the Marriage of Heaven and Hell. And what struck me about those was that they were impossible to finally turn into doctrine. They were antithetical to the tradition of the Proverbs, of wisdom as such. They gave a kind of wisdom, but the wisdom was a wisdom that didn't fit in with the wisdom you might already think exists. And I decided to carry that principle as far as I could. And it's been a 20-year project almost. And preverbs are previous to the condition of knowing what you think is the final truth. So proverbs were famously about great moments of truth, but then it ceases to be true because the moment you think you know the truth, life goes on, and that gets a little bit eroded. So I wanted to find a condition of language in which the process of erosion was intrinsic to the actual act of language itself. So preverbs do not constitute wisdom, they constitute the condition under which one satisfies that kind of intrinsic desire we have to speak the truth, and at the same time, our awareness that speaking the truth isn't the truth. It's the act of being true, but it doesn't represent truth as an external and continuing condition. So what's the poetics of that? How would one constitute that in language? In a certain sense, I would say that's what all poetry does, if it's any good. That is, it continues to resonate beyond the conditions of its own claim, if it makes a claim. But poetry does tend to claim things quite a bit, and that's problematic. So I'm going to read one of the shorter sequences or series. They're not sequences because they're not sequential. The other thing about a dream is that even if its narrative is kind of screwy, it does seem to be narrative. You think that one thing is happening, then another thing is happening. There may be sub-narratives and all of that, or they may not all fit together, but you do have the sense that something is happening in a kind of series. But in the preverbs, that's not the case. They resonate together in ways that I'm not sure I understand, but I feel it's true when it's in the process of the composition. That is, it's not really feeling, it's a kind of knowing in process. So this book is called The Daimon of the Moment, and it's one of the present, there are now 11 volumes of preverbs, 4 of which have been published, and sections of the others have appeared online and in print as well. I'm going to read the title poem, which is also the first series in the book, called The Daimon of the Moment. Now, a daimon is not easy to define. It's often understood to be a kind of entitative state of awareness between human beings and the gods, a kind of in-between state, a middle zone. But it's, in the sense that I understand it, it's the sense that something is speaking that you don't have a handle on its identity, but it has a commanding presence in your mind. So I don't have a theory about what that is or a philosophy of daimonism, but I'm very obedient to the condition of the daimon, particularly in these poems. So the Daimon of the Moment, which is dedicated to the artist Gary Hill, because these were actually written in part for use in our performance together. So I'm going to read them in the series that there are 7 of them. I should have a sense of time, however. I don't want to. I guess 25 minutes is about what we should go. So you should signal me. Go like that when I'm getting close. Like, give me the 3-minute alarm.
How much have you used already?
You tell me. I'm notoriously bad about time. How many minutes on your phone?
14.
Oh, better hurry up. Better hurry up and read. I better read fast.
I'll give you another fast. Actually, that included your introduction. So you have 15 so far.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm going to deduct for your introduction. Okay, the diamond of the moment, 1. Each of the sections has titles, and the titles stand in relationship to the poem as the lines do to each other, which is serial but not sequential. 1. Sudden uplight to start. She put a lightning rod in the backyard, handing me the wire, saying, "Make music." Story is irresistible here among the fragments. Under the breath, the poem says, "Bring me back my missing parts." However does it find my way through so much empty space? Words string together under pull of circumferential pulse as they hit this page. Who knew? There is breathing from afar. I'm standing downwind as we speak. Stepping along together in current weather is the way the music is reading. And intelligence makes its way between the notes and buoys into rhythmia, rups. Where is the timing of never before, if not on the verge of not yet speaking? The language is always trying to talk to itself in instruments, underspeaking. It can't stop talking to itself. It can't stop talking about myself. The mind rides along inside the line, even as it lays about on top, idling. 2. This uses the word linguality, which I may have invented. I haven't seen anybody else using it. For me, it kind of means language reality, but also language generating reality. 2, inevitable linguality. I'm learning. We have to learn our own language. I'm learning listening one step ahead. So I admit bringing undefinable beings here to teach. Ring the bell. The awkward part is establishing that it's me when I say I. I haven't found myself believing in myself, to say the least. The story keeps ending in a self-hanger. The sentence is life. Can't get out until time serves all the way. It tells in how I speak, I'm on parole. The point of admission is conditional release. Somewhere unknown, it steps on out. It no longer knows what it did, let alone what it's doing. Somewhere in here, it's having sex for this particular first time. It finds itself a woman. I've always felt the secret text has a womanly nature if it says so. I've been noticing the register of the voice is self-sensuous. Every word is deadly serious. The more it stays to itself while giving over to the pull, the more it ignites. It means it. Her fire burns where it is. I can't stop feeling it. That's my phone. I knew some idiot would leave the phone on. That last line was, I can't stop feeling it, before my phone interrupted. 3, earth, air, fire, water, stone, sound, breath. Respect is knowing the elements carnally. Knowing the world intimately is already many worlds. To know I'm here and what here is, I drop my attention to the ground, plumb. Still point still points the way from here. This is where we come to be able to go back and forth. No holding back from the extreme other that tells us the more we are. Saying magic means the sudden transition into alternate self is showing itself. Showing itself. Sing a song of sextents, a pitcher full of eye. Voyeur, the seer who sees her, is the eye that makes you sigh. Alternative attraction attracts in hiding copulas, acting elements. Things don't know what they are until you know yourself with them. The line on earth is going to ground in the near. This is the body taking hold as its own element. Quick change of mind somewhere along the syntactic impulse. The language element up close feels self-evanescent. The dream is doing the explaining where I believe what I say and pass on. Four, immemorial footwork. I dreamt I took a walk in the wild, and it was mindful in step. The homing sense scatters in fear, or hones its place fearlessly as if in stone. Stepping out without doubt can get you known in the way wild animals survive. It means cutting through thicket syntax while staying on the line. Words are not as afraid of showing their wild side as we may fear. From etymologomancy to etymologomania is a sliding continuum inside the word. The words we know are survivors. That they mean what they say raises the question of the real value of face value. Writing risks believing it can pin the truth down. What makes for the great in-flesh lingual revival? What spins all the way through in the conscious mind? Taking back all the stupid things I've ever said leaves the future without precedent. Each act tries to solve the problems created by the previous, line by line. Is a party to which no one is invited still a party? He said, I think I have the disease of symbolism, but I haven't found a single one. Can beauty ferry me over the darkening flow of forget? 5, the poetics of stepping back. Meaning eddies inside her every phrase. I confess this is a laboratory for renewable energy and not free of self-interest. Since everything is breathing, even as I speak, it bespeaks me to tell you. Can't seem to stop seeing myself silhouetted on the horizon of history. From this angle, you can't see it's the event lip of a very black hole. Listen down. The sound you don't hear is your own. The poetry that comes through in this attitude renovates the mind half willingly. From this distance, the sound of pleasure and pain are about the same. It's art when it reminds me these are not my attitudes. Is there a poetics of never not kidding? What else can navigate the mood of turned on and off at once? When I watch time speaking, it freezes long enough to entrance me. It takes a strong pin to keep an experimental human awake. We, the people, never get the point. The experiment could fail. And so what? Unless someone has a better idea. These are not attitudes. 6. All senses in the wake. A poem is an intelligence that went its own way. Me? I'm along for the ride, she told me, as if addressing the driver. Suddenly upended talk takes to a renewable truth. Each word sheds a poem to get to its next. It accepts an offer to slip through a hole in the sense of presence. And there was speech. I overhear myself getting oriented. This is never an other here than begins on the spot. When I say it right, I almost know what is being said. My mind is only mine between two screens. On one, the twisted syntax of backseat sex tells how young the tongue. On one, others are my sources of clear vision. We see what's there when we see what sees back. Last one in the series, 7. In you or not at all. It is not the function of language to say what is true. The messenger is not the message unless it says so. And even then. Try to get a look at the earth below when you don't have a window seat. Happiness is a memory recurring. This passes the past on the way back when. I'm down on my knees to get a word in before the next bardo. Happily, I say happily, but I'm not alleging it's true, yet I feel it roundabout. A poem possesses, it violates, it flies heads. As a garden has its angels mushrooming, a given statement is true by beauty. There is a logic of attractors beyond desire that defines mutually. Lines are connectors. Connection is nonlinear. Linear is not direct enough to link. gnosemiogram, scribes to put down new routes across states. Poetry proves that origin enfolds. The poet sees himself out of her mind. In linguality, we come out speaking our future. Flying into dark time, the sun is in my eyes. Time? But I'm just getting started. I didn't say half of what I didn't want to say. Does that mean I have a couple of minutes or not? No. Okay.
Thank you.